And we continue Siman Samach Vav, learning about which times throughout davening one is allowed to be mafsik, one is allowed to interrupt, and for what. And we're holding in Sif Beis, in which the Machaber teaches us. Im shachach laniach tzitzis tefillin. You forgot to put on tzitzis or tefillin. Yachal lahavsik bein habraka lanicham. So in between the program of Kriya Shema, you can be mafsik, and that's when you put them on. V'yivarich aleim, and you even make a bracha at that point. But says the Ramah, says the Ramah, there are those that say, don't make a bracha right then, until after you finish davening, v'achi noig le'inyin talis. Says the Ramah, that is the minhag with regarding a talis. So says the Mishnah Berurah Sivkatan Yud Dalit, im shachach, or it's a mother of unavoidable missteps. For example, you didn't have your tzitzis and tefillin in the beginning. Says the Mishnah Berurah Sivkatan Tezvav that when do you put them on? Bein habrakim. In this diamond lo b'emsa perek, unless someone gives you that in the middle of a perek, yishem l'alnicham ad bein habrakim. Don't put them on right then. Wait until the middle of the in-between paragraphs. Why? Says Mishmur, you're not waiting necessarily to put them on. You're waiting for the reason being that you to be able to make a bracha. Says the Mishnah Berurah that specifically even love the bracha of Yitzhar Avarabah. Aman Zamin Lo Tefillin be'emsa Kriya Shema itself Yoniach Tekef. So first of all, we should point out that from here we see that what we have been talking about until now, a point that we mentioned yesterday will become clear as we go along. When we're discussing in between the paragraphs, does not mean only the paragraphs of the Kriya Shema himself. We're referring to the Birchas Kriya Shema and the Shema itself. But now comments the Mishnah Berurah that if you got your tefillin, your talis, in the middle of Kriya Shema itself, what should you do? Yaniach, take it and put it on right away. Why? Because each and every word of Shema, and you put them on with a bracha. So many startling dinim we're learning. We're realizing the critical importance of having talis and tefillin during Shema. Not stam. Not only is the saying of Shema need talis and tefillin, each and every word has its own importance, and you can even make a bracha when you put them on the middle of Shema. Talis. And now we're commenting on the Ramah. The Ramah said that one should not make a bracha till after you finish davening, and that is the minhag with regarding talis. Says Mishmur Sivkot Tezali and talis. Tibetitis eno chayves gavra. Reminds us of halacha that we learned at the beginning of Orachayim that the mitzvah of tzitzis is not an obligation on the person himself. Shemein loy talis, pater mei tzitzis. Why? How do I know? Because if you don't have a talis, you're bothered from tzitzis. If you yuchal likreis kriya shema b'lo tzitzis, and you're able to say shema without tzitzis, alkei, and therefore mikri hafsaka idei bracha, it's going to be considered an interruption if you make a bracha on the tzitzis. Avol tefillin to chayvas agov to a tefillin, which is an obligation on each and every person. V'gam bilti atefillin who b'meir eidos sheker ba'atzmei chas v'shalom. Number one, each and every Jew has an obligation to put on the tefillin, a personal obligation on his body. And number two, saying Shema without tefillin is as if you're being made, you're giving testimony falsely about yourself. Why? Because you're saying that you put tefillin on your hand and you're not wearing tefillin. And therefore, therefore, we're going with a lenient opinion. We're not considering the putting on the tefillin a lenient bracha. Says Mishnah Berurah, that's with regard to making the bracha, that you even can make a bracha on the tefillin. Putting on the tzitzis, that itself is mutter. And after davening, you move around the tzitzis a little bit and you make a bracha. You not even put on the middle of the parak. For the first paragraph of Kriya Shema. Because of Prima Gadim, we do like the Ramah, that we make the bracha on the tzitzis after davening. Says Mishnah Berurah, let's say someone's in shul and it's a bizayin of him to not wear the tzitzis. And as we referenced when we learned Hilchas Tzitzis, that this halacha, or Shlomo Zalman says, was referring to a world in which it was that every single person wore a talus, more like a yakish of Welt, a world of yakis. And that's the reason why one could potentially be embarrassed to not be wearing a talus. But in our world where people do and people don't, this halacha would seemingly not apply. This halacha of having an additional level of importance to the talus. We continue with Sif Gimel. Says the Mechaber, Lekadish Lekadusha Lebaruchu Mafsik Afilu Be'emsa Pasik. For Kaddish, Kedusha, Baruchu, even in the middle of a pasik, we're mafsik. V'chein lemoidim. Avalo yomer ela tivas moidim. You only say the word moidim bilvad. Says the Rama. V'chein bebaruchu leyomer yisbarach v'ishtabach. So too by baruchu you don't say yisbarach v'ishtabach. Some say the amen after the bracha of a kel kadosh, v'acher shemei tefillah, and amen after the shemei tefillah. Yesh loydin kedusha, the same din of kedusha. You're allowed to say it like Kriya Shema itself. Achein iker ulechol ani mili paiskim mikol shekein ba'omer tachanunim. And certainly, if you're in the middle of saying the tachanunim, sukkah zimra, etc. Continues the Mishnah Berurah Sivkatin Yudzayin, listing that which one is able to be mafsik even in the middle of a pasuk. Kaddish Kedusha Baruch. Says the Mishnah Berurah Sivkatin Yudzayin Kaddish. Hainu, what is this referring to? Lamein Yehei Shmei Rabba Ad La'olma. V'lo Yomer Yisbarach. You don't say Yisbarach. Diyane Amein Acher Damir Bama Aval Ma Aval Al Tiskabel Yeshlama Oise Shalom Lo Yane Amein. You don't say all the amens, only the main yesh meiraba. You don't say yisbarach, and the amen after barmir and be'olma, but not the amens after tiskabel yishlam and oiseh shalom. Kiena laminik, those are minahagim to say those amen. Ule kedusha yemerah kadosh ubaruch. By kedusha you only see the first two, the second and third pasuk. Not nikadesh, not nakdishach. Rather kadosh and baruch. Shazeu ikar kedusha. And not v'yimlach the last pasuk. V'kol shkeish leimar nikadesh u'shar dvarim shemasifim b'Shabbos. Certainly you don't say nikadesh the first pasuk or anything else that we add on Shabbos. V'chol za'afilu bein habrakim le'yomer even bein habrakim. And this is know that if one is in the middle of something, the only time what he's going to stop for in kedusha is just going to be the ikr, the main parts, which are the kadosh and the baruch. Ula Baruchu Sefkatin Yuchas explains the Mishnah Berurah Sha'ina Baruch Hashem Avarach Lelam Vayit Ubi Bercha Za'atayr Yana Baruch Hashem Avarach Lelam Vayit V'gam Amen Al Seif HaBracha, and similarly Amen at the end of HaBracha V'yesh Mefak V'kin Ba'amen Zeh, with such an Amen Ubein HaBrakim you could be Meiko. Says Mishnah Berurah Sefkatin Yod Tes, commenting on the Ramah, on the Machaber that said he could be Mafsik Afilu Be'emsa Pasik. Says the Mishnah Berurah Dim Paisek Lishal and they kavod basar v'dam. It explains the Mishnah Berurah, why are we being paisek for these things? Because if one is allowed to interrupt, as we learned yesterday, to inquire as to the welfare of a mere man of flesh and blood, kalvo choymer, then they covered HaKadosh Baruch Hu. May I time of this reason here, dim shomeya kol ra'amim yafsik v'yivarech. Dim shomeya kol ra'amim, one can be mafsik and make the bracha. Tav a mitzvah oy veres. What's that referring to? Sounds like that's referring to thunder and lightning. Yesh cholkim, and some argue. Since you're in the middle of praising Hashem, to stop and to praise Hashem with a different shevach for the thunder and lightning, you do not do. Below dami l'cholani davi davar shebekdusha is not referred to anything else like davar shebekdusha. Kamechayad demasha dim shema and be'emsa in lo levarach lem. You don't make a bracha ki'im kisheshama isam bin aprakim unless you heard them in between the prakim. And then you say Sefkat al-Chav Teva Moidim Pirish Moidim Anachnu Lach. Doesn't mean just the word Moidim, it means Moidim Anachnu Lach. V'lo Kol Moidim Derabanan, not the entire Moidim Derabanan. Ta'avalei Avsaka Gedela V'nira Dehoa Din B'bein HaPrakim. And we conclude Sefkat al-Chav Aleph, in which the Ramah said that some say the main shayna acher bara of the bracha of Akel HaKadosh, says the Mishnah Berurah of Gadol Chaval Misham to see him shalosh brachas rishonis. Why is that amen after Akel HaKadosh of such importance? Says the Mishnah Berurah, because it's the conclusion of the first block of brachas in Shemona Esrei v'Shemei Tefillah Havisiyim Emsayis. That's the middle of the middle brachas. Avlo amein achesim sim shaloim. The amein after the conclusion of the entire Shemona Esrei, after we see him call Shemona Esrei. So according to this logic, that there's more importance to amein after the first third, the middle third, and seemingly after the whole thing. Still, says Mishmur Eskimu Harbe Achrayim. To lo yane bem sekrishma, you do not answer Ein Magin Avram the Tam. Hani immediately says Mishmur of Kadach of Beis L'chayra Lav Dafka. Do adin l'chol amein tzarich lifsaik kishay mitachanunim. All it means you have to say when you're just in the middle of tachanunim, like Pesukei Zimra. Avol be'emes divri haramah nechaynim me'oid. Says Mishmur, no, this Ramah is proper. To Umayri v'tachanunim. Haragel leimer b'soif sviyim Shemona Esrei. So about the tachanunim, that one that we're ruggled to say at the end of Shemona Esrei al-Kei, and therefore, ilu amanim dafka. These are means dafka. V'chein matzasi b'tshuvas Rashi menu novei adin. So it's not every amin, because we're talking about the amins in the middle of the tachanunim at the end of Shemona Esrei. It's only these specific amins. Tachanunim Sefkanu Chav Gimel says the Mishnah Berurah, the Koshkin b'Pesukei Zimra, and similarly by Pesukei Zimra. Le'inin mutar la'anois amin bin ha'prakim. To amin between the prakim shall kriyish ma'ber chaysach hayadam b'chalchav sefdalid kasav de'enoi mutar la'anois rak amin min ha'bracha atzma. Only allowed to say amin from the bracha itself. Shesayma mitzchila. Aval aprim megadim simin on alav chavir lushav kivei eger simin zeh skimu. The chol amin model anois bein habrakim hitel mayim. Let's say someone used the bathroom. Lo yivarich asher yotzar. You should not make asher yotzar middle of berachas krishma. Ragitel yadav v'lachar tefillah yivarich, a very important halacha. I mean, all these halachas are important, but it is a common scenario. One uses the bathroom at that point. You wash your hands, but you do not say asher yotzar. I'll pick it up from Sif Dalid in the next year. B'siyata dishmayo.